number at the moment. I think everyone may be online tonight.
Okay. All wary of an evening snowstorm.
Maybe. Oh, maybe they're just late. Hi, Councillor Reeb, do you want to do a sound check?
I hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, thank you. Just waiting for one more there, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Carr, you appear to be logged in twice.
Yeah,
Not sure why.
I see that.
Oh, and your echo.
It won't let me leave. Sorry.
Okay, it looks like it's gone now. Yeah, I think she fixed. Hi, Councillor Fryatt.
Hi.
All right, you have.
You're still there? Oh,
yeah.
man.
You have 6, Councillor Boyle.
Thank you very much. I will now call the public hearing of April 12th, 2022 to order. This meeting is convened by electronic means, and as such, council members may participate in person or by electronic means. For council members participating by electronic means, please ensure your video is turned on and let the clerk know if you leave the meeting for the purposes of confirming quorum. Council members are reminded that in accordance with section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. Council members attending by electronic means lose connection during any portion of the hearing. We will recess the meeting until the connection is restored. If council members lose connection during the voting process, staff will get you back online quickly while we suspend the voting process, and the contact information has been circulated to you. Members of the public can view the proceedings via the live stream and YouTube link, which will be tweeted out by @VanCityClerk. We acknowledge that we are in the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having cared for these lands and look forward to working with them in partnership. We also want to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of our City of Vancouver staff who work hard every day. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Deputy Mayor Boyle in the chair. Mayor Stewart, not present. Oh, has a leave of absence for personal business from 6 to 10. Councillor Carr.
Here?
Councillor DiGenova. Councillor Fry.
Present.
Councillor Swanson.
Here.
Councillor Hardwick.
Present.
Councillor Wiebe.
Present.
Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly. And Councillor Kirby-Yung. You have quorum, Deputy Mayor Boyle.
Thank you very much, clerks. Before we begin, I have some announcements. The public may participate in this evening's public hearing by phone, submitting written comments to council, or speaking in person. Participation by phone is encouraged. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merit of the report being considered. Speakers should also state whether they are in support or opposed to the recommendations and if they are a resident of Vancouver. Speakers may only speak once and should follow along on Twitter @VanCityClerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so they don't miss their turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be submitted in writing through our online web form at vancouver.ca/public-hearing-comments. This link will also be tweeted. Those speaking on behalf of other persons or groups will have 8 minutes to speak, and only if those represented are also on the line and must not be speakers themselves. Speakers who pre-registered with presentations are reminded that the public live feed has a slight delay. To navigate through the slides of your presentation, please say next so the clerk may advance your slides. I also want to note the City of Vancouver's long-standing commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including utmost respect for all genders. I remind Council that when addressing speakers and staff, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. A reminder that Council's role at a public hearing is to be a quasi-judicial body, which means Council is to only consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save debate for after the close of the speakers list. After hearing from speakers, Council may 1. Approve the application in principle, 2. Refuse the application, or 3. Refer the application to staff for further consideration. Finally, if Council does not conclude hearing from all speakers this evening, we will recess and reconvene the meeting on April 19th, 2022 at 6 p.m. So the first item on our agenda this evening is a rezoning of 5337 to 5387 Willow Street and 826 West 37th Avenue. Before we begin, does any member of Council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item number 1? Seeing none, the clerk will now read the application and summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by Lestrayer Homes Limited to rezone 5337 to 5387 Willow Street and 826 West 37th Avenue from RS-1 Residential District to RM-8A Multiple Dwelling District to allow for a townhouse or row house development with a floor space ratio of 1.20 are proposed. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability recommends approval subject to conditions set out in the summary and recommendation of the public hearing agenda. No correspondence has been received on this application since referral to public hearing. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today. Thank you.
Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to Council may call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. There will be an opportunity for those on the phone or in person to speak at the end of the registered speakers list. We have Desiree Druitt, rezoning planner with the Rezoning Center, here to present the application.
I'll move to waive presentation, seeing that there are no registered speakers.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Do we have a seconder to?
Second.
Well,
Right.
maybe I'll just ask if any. Now I can't remember how we do this. Anyone opposed to waiving the presentation? Okay, hearing none. We will waive the presentation. Is the applicant team here to speak to the application?
Deputy Mayor Boyle and members of council, I'm Chris Rowland. I'm the applicant. I am available if you have any questions. I do not plan to make a presentation.
Okay, thank you. Council, are there any questions to staff or to the applicant team, noting that this is the only opportunity for council to ask questions of the applicant?
Chair, I see no councillors on the list to ask questions. I want to move the recommendations.
Okay, I appreciate that. We have to make 3 calls for speakers.
Oh, right.
But I will do that now. So a first call for speakers. Clerk, do we have any speakers in person or on the line?
No speakers, Chair.
Okay, and just a reminder, if there are speakers for this item, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061445#. I will call for a second time for any speakers to this item?
No speakers, Chair.
Okay, and we'll call a third time and recess for 5 minutes to give any speakers a chance to phone in. Council, it's 6:10, so we will regroup at 6:15. don't hear anything. I will take that as a no. Council, any questions for staff? Councillor Wiebe, I see your name on the list.
Yeah, first question. The Canby Corridor Plan expects a variety of developments to strengthen the transportation pedestrian networks. And I'm just wondering, recognizing that this is on two major bikeways and a greenway across from a school, what would we expect through the development permit for this project to expand the safety and accessibility measures of this transportation network?
Chair, sorry, I can't turn on the this is the clerk. I can't turn on the staff mic right now. It's just frozen. Could you just please hold for a sec?
We can hold, yep.
Mic's not working.
And I'm referring to section 4.3-12 of the plan.
Hi, Councillor Wiebe. This is Rosemary Jaskovich, Senior Transportation Engineer. So this application is going to be required to provide a number of transportation improvements, as you've noted. So part of that will include very typical frontage improvements, widened sidewalks, curb ramps, improved street lighting, laneway improvements as well. And then in order to meet goals in the plan to achieve improved cycling connections as well, part of the requirements of this site will be to deliver SRW's statutory rights of way and dedications in order to facilitate future upgrades to the cycling network adjacent to the site. That'll include future protected bike lanes on both frontages, as well as a protected cycling intersection corridor to enable improved access for both the users of the site and folks in and around the area.
Okay, so they don't have to provide the in-kind amenity, they just have to provide the space for a future amenity to happen. And then we would assume that the CAC would be able to cover that in the plan, or how do we expect that those will be funded throughout the process of development?
So that's correct. The immediate, I guess, deliverables for this site will be the walking improvements, and then the laneway and lighting improvements. Those are the conditions of the development. The cycling upgrades will happen in the future, and those will be delivered through as the Canby Corridor Plan continues to be delivered in the area. So those will be delivered at a future time, I guess, when demand dictates the need for those protected bike lanes. And then I will pass on to our planning colleagues who can elaborate more on the CAC-DCL questions.
Well, I guess just to follow up quickly, there's been a lot of conversation about the need to strengthen the 37th bikeway, recognizing how many schools are on it. So I'm hearing from parents and PACs and others that this is something that we should be focusing on in the near future. So I was wondering if there's an opportunity for some upgrades, recognizing that corner will be pretty busy with the school. If there's opportunity in this DP to look at opportunities to upgrade 37th in the immediate future, recognizing it might be a larger project to fully separate it while the plan is developed.
I guess part of the question, like developments through the rezoning, we typically condition things that are commensurate with the scale of development, things that would be triggered by the site. So that's where the dedication and SRW come in. Without speaking too broadly to other developments in the area, there are opportunities to strengthen the greenway along 37th through other nearby large developments. But as like for this site specifically, they wouldn't be delivering anything more immediate.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Wiebe. Councillor Hardwick, you are up next for questions.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to confirm with staff that these are strata title units.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Hardwick. Yes, these will be strata titled townhouses.
And part of the policy provenance underlying this decision is the Housing Vancouver strategy, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Carr, I see you next on the list. And you are muted. Councillor Carr, you're muted.
Yeah, I was double muted. I am sorry, Chair.
That's okay.
I don't see any other questions from council, so I'm prepared to move the recommendations.
Thank you.
Councillor DiGenova.
And seconded by Councillor DiGenova. Thank you very much. Is there any debate? I see Councillor Swanson on the list.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for this. I just have such a problem with the Canby plan because it's of the lack of affordability. It seems like we're just creating a neighborhood where almost everyone is way above the average income. We know that the median renter income, household income, is about 50,000, and here we are giving increased density with not requiring even an iota of affordability. And I just think that's wrong because we're not getting any community benefit back. The developer is the one that gets most of the benefit. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Councillor Hardwick, you're up next.
Yes, I will echo what Councillor Swanson said. The reason I asked if this was strata development is because this will increase land values in a significant way, as all of the decisions that we've been making in this area have led to precipitous land inflation. And the reason I asked about whether it was using the Housing Vancouver strategy as provenance or precedent underlying the policy is because it's fundamentally flawed policy, and every decision that we are making on this basis is similarly suspect. Garbage in, garbage out. So I won't be supporting. Thank you.
Okay, that is everyone on the speakers list, so I will ask the clerk to move us to a vote.
Sorry, Chair, I forgot to load up my Creston. Vote assist in favor.
Thanks, Councillor Fry, and I also need a vote assist because I am having trouble figuring out how to vote on the big screen here. Councillor Kirby-Yung. Absent. Okay. Thank you, Council. That passes with Councillor Swanson and Councillor Hardwick in opposition. So we'll just give planning staff a moment to switch over to the next item. And clerk, I'll get you to just let me know when we're ready to begin item 2.
All right, staff are ready, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is a CD1 rezoning at 6409 to 6461 Canby Street and 505 West 49th Avenue. Does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item number 2? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will now read the application and summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by Asato Architecture Limited to rezone 6409 to 6461 Canby Street and 505 West 49th Avenue from RT-1 Residential District to CD-1 Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of a 10-story mixed-use building with 48 strata titled residential units, commercial space, live-work space, and a 37-space child care facility A height of 40.5 meters with additional height for rooftop amenity and a floor space ratio of 4.68 are proposed. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability recommends approval, subject to conditions set out in the summary and recommendation of the public hearing agenda. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing. 13 pieces of correspondence in support and 1 piece of correspondence regarding other aspects of the application. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you very much. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. We have Tess Monroe, rezoning planner with the Rezoning Center, here to present the application. And again, council, seeing as there are no speakers signed up to this item, council could move to waive the presentation.
Move to waive the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Carr, and I'll just ask if any councillors are opposed to waiving the presentation. Okay, we can move to the applicant team. Is the applicant team here, and would you like to speak to the application?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Chung. I'm the applicant. I don't have anything to present. I'm here to answer all your questions. Thanks for your time.
Okay, great. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from council to staff or the applicant team? Again, a reminder that this is the only opportunity for council to ask questions of the applicant. Seeing as there are no questions, we'll move to hearing from the public. Clerk, are there any speakers in chambers or on the line to speak to this item?
No speakers, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, I will consider that my first call. This is my second call. If there are any speakers to this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. And again, that phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. This is my third call for speakers. Are there any speakers in chambers or on the line, clerk?
No speakers, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we will again take a 5-minute break to give any speakers a chance to call in. It's 8:26 by my clock now, so we will start again at 8:33. 8:33. I'll call you back. Clerk, do we have any speakers on the line or in the chambers for item number 2?
No speakers, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing as there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. As few or no public comments were received on this item after 5 p.m. today, I suggest we now close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments, asking any further questions of staff, and making a decision. Does the applicant have any closing comments?
No, we are fine. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And do staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments, thank you.
Thank you. And council, do you have any questions for staff? I don't see anyone on the list. Council will now make its decision. Do we have a mover?
So moved. Councillor DiGenova.
Thank you.
Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Councillor DiGenova, and seconded by Councillor Dominato. Is there any debate? Councillor Wiebe?
Yeah, I'd just like to speak. It's great to get childcare, city-owned facility, and that these are the scale that we're seeing in the city plan, talking about kind of 12-story. So we're providing amenities and livable space in a transport-oriented area. So I will be supportive of this project.
Thank you, Councillor Wiebe. Councillor Swanson, you're up next.
Yeah, well, we don't have any affordability here, which is bad. We at least have a desperately needed childcare, so I'll vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Councillor DiGenova.
I just also wanted to say that I'm hopeful that we will approve this because 37 new spaces of childcare is badly needed. We need it all over the city of Vancouver, but certainly, as we've heard, along the Cambie corridor, where we are looking at not only multifamily residential and looking at opportunities for more affordable living. It might not be as affordable as some would want. The fact is we don't have enough childcare on safe, secure childcare spaces. I also would like to say that I hope that this will be an option for 24-hour childcare. I know that our staff are working on that, so I won't ask that question. But I think that that's really important, especially for people who have barriers to childcare after the regular hours of 7 to 5 or 7 to 6 p.m. So I'll leave my comments there, but I will be supportive of this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor DiGenova. Councillor Carr, you're up next.
Councillor is muted.
I keep getting double muted for some reason. My apologies, Chair. I'm not really supportive of this application because of the childcare, which is desperately needed in the city. I hear complaints all the time about people who just can't afford or can't find childcare, but also because it does have live work space. It also has office space on several levels, and I think it's a great mixed-use building along 49th, which is getting to be a more and more busier thoroughfare. So appreciate the mixed aspects to this building.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. And Councillor Hardwick.
Thanks very much. So 48 strata titled residential units is on the negative side of this, ultimately being justified again under the Housing Vancouver strategy, which I've I think said enough times I have a problem with. The live workspace and the childcare facility is in the plus column. So overall, I'm going to abstain on this one. And I want to state again, to be perfectly clear, an abstention is equal to a vote in support. And what is differentiating it is the fact that it is a statement that there is insufficient information. I want to be clear about this because it's being misrepresented in the media and social media. And if anybody doesn't know what an abstention means under the Vancouver Charter, look it up. Thanks very much.
Okay, and the speakers list or the list of councillors for debate and comment is done, so I will ask the clerk to move us to a vote.
Chair, it's Councillor Dominato. I'll take a vote assist in favor, please.
Sure, thank you, Councillor Dominato. That passes with no councillors in opposition. Thank you, Council. And again, we'll just give staff a moment to switch up and be ready for item number 3. And clerk, let me know when we're ready to start item number 3.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Boyle.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is an amendment to the Regional Context Statement Official Development Plan bylaw for 1325 to 1333 East Georgia Street. Does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item number 3? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will now read the application and summary of correspondence received.
This is a report by the General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability to amend the Regional Context Statement Official Development Plan bylaw to change the designation of the lands at 1325 to 1333 East Georgia Street from industrial to general urban solely for the purpose of facilitating delivery of temporary modular housing. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability recommends approval subject to the conditions set out in the summary and recommendations of the public hearing agenda. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing. 2 pieces of correspondence in support, 2 pieces of correspondence in opposition, and 2 pieces of correspondence regarding other aspects of the application. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you very much. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. We have Robert White, rezoning planner with the Rezoning Center, here to present the application. And council, we have a speaker on the list, so I am suggesting that we hear the presentation.
All right, thank you. Good evening, council. My name is Robert White, rezoning planner for this application to amend the Regional Context Statement Official Development Plan bylaw for a site at 1325 to 1333 East Georgia Street. The lack of affordable housing in Vancouver has compromised the homeless and marginalized from finding secure and safe housing. Council has confirmed addressing homelessness as a top priority, noting the 2020 homeless count found over 2,000 people in Vancouver are without a home. A count was not conducted in 2021 due to COVID concerns. However, staff believe that number remains accurate. In 2017, Council adopted regulations and policy to support the delivery of social housing in the form of temporary modular housing, or TMH, as one measure to address the homelessness crisis. To date, 12 TMH projects have been completed, creating over 700 homes for the city's most marginalized residents. TMH has been built on both public and private lands, with each temporary development governed by a time-limited development permit with a maximum duration of up to 10 years. In 2021, Luma Native Housing Society, a local nonprofit housing provider, expressed an interest in exploring TMH on a privately owned site at 1325 to 1333 East Georgia Street. Their 2-parcel site, zoned I2, has a land area of approximately 12,500 square feet and is currently developed with a surface parking area and a single detached house at the rear of the site, constructed in 1908. The house is not listed on the Vancouver Heritage Register and is currently used as a social club, planning to relocate to a new building later this year. The area is predominantly industrial, including an adjacent auto body repair shop and air conditioning supplier, as well as a number of single detached homes nearby, which predate the industrial zoning and give a residential feel to the area. A range of commercial services are located nearby on Hastings and Clark Streets, and Woodland Park is located at the eastern end of the block. The Zoning and Development Bylaw allows the Director of Planning to consider TMH at this location, and staff consider this an appropriate site. However, the Regional Context Statement Official Development Plan, or RCS ODP bylaw, precludes consideration of TMH here because the site is not designated as general urban land use. Council adopted the City of Vancouver's RCS ODP bylaw in 2013 in response to Metro Vancouver 2040, the Regional Growth Strategy bylaw, or RGS, adopted by the Greater Vancouver Regional District Board in 2011. The RGS focuses on land use policies to support future development of the region in line with sustainability goals. Following adoption of the RGS, each municipality developed an RCS ODP that embodied the goals of the RGS and aligned with local land use provisions. The city's RCS ODP bylaw sets out regional land use designations consistent with the RGS, prescribing general urban, industrial, mixed employment, conservation and recreation, and agricultural designations. General urban is the only one that permits residential uses such as TMH. The city may make minor amendments to the land use designations through a flexibility clause contained in the bylaw, provided prior communication with Metro Vancouver has occurred and Metro Vancouver is formally notified once a change has been made. Council has approved amendments in the past under this flexibility clause to support delivery of TMH on industrial sites, such as a site at 1115 to 1141 Franklin Street in 2017 and 1580 Vernon Drive in 2020. Under the flexibility clause, a maximum change of 2% to a land use designation may be made, and each amendment is limited to a maximum site area of 1 hectare, or about 108,000 square feet. Thus far, this flexibility clause has been used sparingly and limited to supporting social housing proposals on city lands. The proposed amendment before you today for a private site measuring approximately 12,500 square feet falls well within these flexibility provisions. This application seeks to amend the RCS ODP bylaw to allow the Director of Planning to consider a development application for TMH on this site. Council is not being asked whether this site is an appropriate location for TMH, as that authority rests with the Director of Planning. Also, this application does not propose any change to the existing I2 industrial zoning. Should Council approve the amendment, Luma Native Housing Society would be able to submit a development application for review. The application would be assessed against applicable policies and guidelines and Council's objectives around TMH and the homelessness crisis. Recommendation B would direct staff to return to Council in the future to amend the bylaw to change the land use designation back to industrial when the TMH is removed in order to protect the industrial land use capacity of the area. Feedback was received on this RCS ODP amendment through the Shaper City webpage. In total, staff received 18 comments. Themes of support included the provision of affordable housing and neighborhood context, and themes of concern included neighborhood context, safety, and loss of industrial land. I'll again note that no change to the existing I2 industrial zoning is proposed. Should Council approve this amendment and a development application is submitted, further consultation would take place as part of the city's development application review process. This process would include opportunities for anyone to view the proposal and for feedback to be submitted, considered, and addressed where possible. In closing, staff recommend approval of the amendment to the RCS ODP bylaw to change the land use at the site from industrial to general urban in order to allow the Director of Planning to consider a TMH proposal, and recommend directing staff to return to Council when the TMH is removed to change the land use back to industrial. This concludes the presentation, and we have staff available to answer any questions you may have about the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, are there any questions that you have to staff? I don't see any questions, so we'll move to hearing from the public. And I'll just remind those listening, if there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to Council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 1061445 pound before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream as well. Clerk, do we have our first speaker on the line?
Yes, they're there.
Okay, great. Speaker, go right ahead.
All right. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is John O'Malley. I'm the president of Cool Air Rentals. We are a business that is located in Vancouver, directly to the east of the site that is undergoing the proposed zoning change. Cool Air has been a business in Vancouver for over 27 years. We employ over 35 people. More than half of those live in the city of Vancouver. Approximately 10 to 15% of our people ride bikes to work. So we're what I would say a very local business. And my opposition to this is twofold. Currently, East Georgia is mostly industrial based. Robert, you suggested that it has a residential feel. I disagree. This street is mostly warehouses and operating businesses, and not more than 4 houses on this street that you said in your presentation were predating the zoning change, and it's been industrial for a long time. I have a concern of a growing business and a evaporating industrial land base that this zoning change would compromise our ability to grow a Vancouver-based business and any other businesses, because the land for industrial has historically, for the last few years, been about a 0.4 vacancy rate. And by pulling industrial land out and changing the zoning to allow general urban is also going to heighten the industrial base for which businesses like mine need to grow into. Also have a concern of taking what formerly was a empty lot used by a limousine company and changing it into a residential complex and plunking that right down to an operating business. And what kind of impact am I going to have? What are my people are going to have? Where now we were in what I would classify as an industrial area. Now I have a residential complex right next door to me. Am I going to be now forced to change my habits and when we can start and when we have vehicles leaving or coming, or work that we may do outside? So my concerns are twofold, and I just think that there is a lot of push to get these residential structures put up, and I support that. I do not support taking industrial land base and changing the zoning to allow this for 10 years. Now, I understand, Robert, 10 years is a time frame, but it might as well be a complete change, even though the zoning only is temporary. 10 years in the course of any business is a long time. So those are my 2 points and my opposition to the zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have questions from Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. I'm very familiar with the location, going back, maybe predating your business, but back when the plaza was across the street, and that was a notorious house just across from you. So yeah, I appreciate.
Yeah.
Oh, you were around for the plaza days?
Yeah, and there's definitely some colorful people that live there still. So it may not be called the plaza, but it definitely has got a colorful following for sure.
Yeah, no, indeed. So I definitely appreciate your concern, and I think this council is very alive to the need to preserve industrial land. But as you also acknowledge, we struggle with some of the issues around homelessness and supporting folks, especially as we consider the devastating fire that's just displaced 156 low-income residents in Gastown overnight. If I was to tell you, because I do take your concerns that 10 years may not ever, it may not revert to industrial, but we have seen actually a lot of those early temporary modular housing on industrial lands actually remove after 5 years, and they do kind of relocate and stuff like that. Do you take any solace in knowing that it likely will return to industrial land after this use? And I guess my second question is, does it directly impact your business? Like, do you make a lot of noise at Cool Air? Is it the kind of thing that is incompatible with your business right now?
You know, I would equate that we are a going concern. So we have trucks coming and going. We have forklifts moving equipment. We deal primarily with emergency, temporary rental applications, healthcare, film industry. So there are set hours we have, but there are also emergency calls where a hospital has lost cooling or heating to a particular area, and we have to respond in the middle of the night. And my concern, you know, is what impact is that residential complex going to have on our day-to-day operations? So I would not classify us as being, you know, we don't paint equipment and we don't grind equipment, but we do make noise. And I just am very concerned by taking a residential complex and plunking it right down beside a going industrial-based business, that I'm going to have to change my operation or my daily ways to accommodate complaints that of something that wasn't there or wasn't contemplated when we moved there.
Okay, so I guess that's where I'm trying to drill it down then. So you're worried that new residents will move in and they'll start complaining about compressor noise or whatever, the hours of operation, that kind of thing, and impact the way you're currently doing business.
Yeah, again, I had two concerns. I had a concern with taking industrial land base and really changing the use of it. And I understand, and I'm giving that it is a 10-year period, but it will impact the industrial base in Vancouver because it will remove it from it. But my bigger concern is plunking not a single family resident, but a multi-unit residential complex right beside a operating industrial business. And soon, you know, we'll have complaints or noise complaints or some kind of egress issues. And now Cool Air has to change how they operate.
Okay, I do appreciate that concern, and I think that's something we can reflect on with staff to make sure that your kind of usage is grandfathered in there. Okay, thanks. I think I'm out of time anyway, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. You have questions from a couple more councillors, if you don't mind. Councillor Hardwick is next.
Thank you. So again, two main points. One is erosion of industrial land. And I think what you're saying is once the precedent is set, it's not coming back. Would that be accurate?
Correct. Yeah, that would be accurate. I mean, I'm fully cognizant that 10 years is the time period, but I think when we get down after 10 years to pull these complexes down, it's going to be very difficult, because I think this is a problem that is not going to be solved in 10 years. And I'm fully cognizant that this complex may be needed. And the fire downtown was just, one example. Is there's more people coming into the need of these accommodations than less. And so it's
a balancing act, and I'm sure you understand, but have you noticed in your business just generally a loss of industrial land? It's something that we hear a lot about, and the importance of preserving what we have.
Yeah, and it's twofold, Colleen, in that where there's less land, and then when there's less land, the price increases. And I want to keep my business in Vancouver. We service downtown Vancouver. We service for the city of Vancouver lots of cooling stations that are put up every summer to help people survive. And I don't want to have to run my business in from Burnaby or from further. I want to stay in Vancouver. I'm a proud Vancouver resident, and I want to stay there. And I don't want to have my business compromised because there is now this residential development next door to me that is forcing me to change how I operate, and whatever that may be, it may force me to look elsewhere. I want to build my business, I want to grow it, but I don't want to be compromised because I have next door neighbors that are going to be tough to live with.
Right. So I heard you mention the film industry earlier, and I totally relate to that. Again, our locations are our natural resources in the film industry, and with the loss of industrial land, it's really hurting there too. So yeah, I think I've got the picture. Thank you very much for your insights.
Okay, thanks, Colleen.
Thank you, Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Dominato, you're up next.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for calling today. You really raised some valid concerns around industrial land. I'm curious, because I know the area as well. Do you know how long the Dudes Social Club has been there? And because it's not really an industrial use right now, despite the zoning, but the social club is there. You know how long it's been? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, the Dudes have been there, and what we're talking about for others is that house, the 1908 house, that was an office for the previous owner. They came in shortly after the new owner took possession, which was about a year and a half ago. There haven't been any problem. They've had a few events there, and are very quiet. So there's no issues for us, and we completely coexist. Again, my concerns is when we have multiple people living in the complex.
Right. I'm curious though if you I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but just I was surprised to read that despite the zoning, there wasn't a purchase by a company for that land, given its existing zoning and the need for industrial land. And I'm just curious if you were surprised by that as well.
Yeah, we were also looking at that to expand, but it is an empty lot. There's two lots there. One is empty, the one directly beside us. The next one to the west has got the house right at the back of the property. So it would have been a stretch for us, because it was empty land, to buy it just to store equipment outside. Just the nature of what we have, our equipment doesn't do well sitting outside. This is equipment that people have in their businesses. They breathe the air that comes through our machines. We need to keep them inside and protected so that they aren't subject to our rain and cold weather. So it was something that we looked at, but we had to let it go because there was no structure there for us to house our equipment.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate clarifying that. And I have a couple of questions for our staff after we're done with speakers. But thanks for calling in this evening. I appreciate it.
Okay. No, thanks for asking the questions.
Thank you very much. And those are all of the questions from council. So thank you for waiting on the line and taking the time to call in and speak this evening. This is, I'm going to make a second call for speakers to the public. Clerk, do we have any other speakers in chambers or on the line?
No new speakers, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, and I will make a third call. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. Council, it is 7:02. We will pause for 5 minutes again to allow anyone else from the public to phone in. So we will resume at 7:07. hearing closing comments, asking further questions of staff, and making a decision. Do staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments from staff.
Okay, thank you. I see a couple counselors on the list, I presume for questions to staff. Councillor Fry, we'll start with you. And you are on mute.
Of course I am. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
And I've sent this request concurrently over to our solicitor, but I'm curious from staff, just reflecting on some of the comments from Cool Air. I'm entertaining an amendment that would suggest that the temporary modular housing be permitted explicitly for up to a maximum of 10 years, at which time staff bring forward a recommendation for council's approval to amend the regional context statement ODP to return the land use designation to industrial, which is consistent with the language that's already in the report. It's just actually adding that as a recommendation. And secondly, further, that the rezoning and amendment of the regional context statement to allow temporary residential use does not fetter, limit, or compromise the ability of existing or typical industrial land use on adjacent or neighboring industrial zone sites. My thinking here is that we don't mess with existing industrial use, knowing that we have such a limited
Councillor
supply.
Fry, just a reminder, these are questions to staff.
Right, so I'm asking if this would be something that staff could support, and if they see any potential issues with an approach of that nature. So A, not fettering the industrial use of adjacent properties, and B, limiting this to temporary use explicitly for 10 years.
Do we have staff on the line to answer that? Clerk, do you know if there's a...
Staff are just consulting who will answer the question.
Hi, Councillor. Hi, Councillor Boyle. Yes, we are considering the proposed amendment, and if you could just give us a couple minutes to consider it and get back to you on its
sure thing. Thanks, Jeff.
legality, we'd really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
See.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Fry. Councillor Swanson, you're up next.
Yeah, have staff considered, or do we have any other sites this could go on that aren't industrial?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. With this report, this is the current site that LUMA has been exploring, that we've been looking at. And I'll note, as part of this report and the recommendations, this is simply to allow staff to receive a development application to review it further. There's no kind of approval of a development application through this.
So, but what about my question of, does the city have other land that this modular housing could go on?
Hi, Councillor Swanson. It's Yardley McNeil, Assistant Director of Planning for the Rezoning Centre. The issues of compatibility will be determined at the DP stage. The Director of Planning will take that into consideration along with the adjacent neighborhood and the context that's there, and taking into consideration as well the other temporary modular housing projects that we've landed on industrial land, and how has that worked itself out over the last several years. So this is not the report is not seeking to determine that at this stage. All it's doing is clearing the way to change the designation in the ODP from industrial to general urban in order for the Director of Planning to consider a DP to land temporary modular housing. So the full review around compatibility and the relationship with its neighbors would be determined at that time.
So, but my question is, does the city have other land that temporary modular housing could go on?
Thank you, Councillor. Allison Dunnett from ACCS is here to address that question for you.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. No, at this time, the city does not have land to offer LUMA for this project. This project is being undertaken by LUMA with support from CMHC and BC Housing. So the city's only role in this is a regulatory role.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Councillor Dominato, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of points within the report and following on the speaker's comments. Did I understand clearly that it would be up to 10 years for TMH on this privately held land, but there is an option for extension, and I believe I read 5 years up to a maximum of 10 years. So there is, in theory, you could have TMH on this industrially zoned land for 20 years in total. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. So
Okay,
what
thank you.
would...
That's why I want to ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all for you, Councillor Dominetto?
Could you expand on that then? So because there was an extension option I read in there, that the discretion of Director of Planning.
Yes, correct. So any development application would be reviewed for a term of 5 years. There would be an option for one extension of up to an additional 5 years for a maximum total of 10 years.
Okay. And can you confirm for me again that at the end of that term, under the agreements that we have with the province, that TMH can be moved and relocated?
Any TMH, it could certainly be moved and relocated. That would be up to the owner to determine what they would prefer to do with the building after that point.
Correct. Great. And in this particular instance, as I said in the board, this typically we're dealing with TMH on public land. This is private land, and that LUMA owns it. We're playing a regulatory role.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I may have one further question, but I'll come back on the queue if I do. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Dominetto. Councillor DiGenova, you're up next.
I was prepared to move adoption, Chair. If now's the appropriate time.
Okay.
Point of privilege. I was going to jump back on once staff had an opportunity to.
Oh,
yes,
so sorry. I didn't mean to preempt Councillor Fry there. I'll wait to move that then.
Thanks, Councillor DiGenova. Councillor Fry, back on, I assume, just to ask if staff have a response to your previous question.
Indeed, yes. And Jeff did email me back. I was hoping he could just speak to it for the record. And I guess specifically the other question being, well, actually, I'll just let Jeff answer. Is Jeff Greenberg on?
Yes, I am. Yes, Council. I did respond to Councillor Fry's general question, and I think the first part is already there in recommendation B, to instruct staff to bring back after the 10 years the necessary bylaws to change it back, which will be a decision for Council at that time to decide upon. This Council can't make that decision now. It will be up to the Council of the day. And in response to Councillor Fry's other point, the zoning of this site can't really impact the uses of the adjacent site. So I didn't feel that we needed that. My recommendation would be that we didn't need that change. But he can bring that amendment for sure, and it can be up for the chair to consider it.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Councillor Fry, that's all for you?
Yeah, that is. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor DiGenova, you're next on the list. I think.
Just happy to move adoption.
Okay, great. And do we have a seconder?
Second.
I heard Councillor Swanson. Councillor Carr, I saw you, but you're muted. Just again, so you know, moved by Councillor DiGenova and seconded by Councillor Swanson. Is there any debate? Councillor Swanson.
I think I'm.
Oh, Councillor DiGenova is still on the queue to speak. Go right ahead, and then Councillor Swanson, you'll be next.
Thanks. I'll be brief, but I do think that we all recognize around the council table, even figuratively, in chambers, that we are dealing with a housing and homelessness crisis in the city of Vancouver. Temporary modular housing is a tried, tested, true, and proven way to deliver safe, affordable housing. When done properly, we've seen it succeed. We've seen residents who may have been against it in their neighborhoods come out actually in support of it later on. And although we're not specifically deciding on the housing today. I think that our decision is vital to give an organization an opportunity to move forward with temporary. I'm so sorry. I'll stop, Chair. I think someone might not be on mute.
Yep. Continue, Councillor
Thanks.
Dijanova.
I just I wanted to say that I appreciated the clarification that came from another councillor's question, that we're not fettering a council in the future that will make a decision. This is just simply allowing there to possibly be a decision in the future. And while I do definitely see the importance of protecting industrial land, I do believe that there are instances when we also need to consider much needed opportunities for housing, especially for the most vulnerable and marginalized in our communities. So for these reasons, I will be supporting this, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Dijanova. Councillor
Point-
Swanson. Oh,
Point of privilege, Chair. Could you add me to the queue? It's Councillor Kirby-Young.
yes, we sure can. Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Swanson, you are up next.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that it's on industrial land. And I don't like the idea that it's only 10 years and then it will have to get moved and the people will have to get uprooted and we'll have to find another place to put it. But on the other hand, there's a desperate need for housing for low-income folks, so I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Councillor Fry, you're up next.
Yeah, having mentioned earlier that I'm quite familiar with the site and spent way too many evenings partying across the street at the legendary plaza, that lot has been empty and underused for quite some time, with just parking there and the beat up old house in the back. And there's an old art history there as well. Davide Pan used to live there, and there's been a lot of interesting uses. And I think that this, in and of itself, is an opportunity to activate the site for something more useful than it's currently being used for. I am confident, after hearing from Council Greenberg on the idea of, I do recognize the concerns that Cool Air had shared, that this may in some way fetter their use of their industrial use of the land through, and we see this time and time again when residential buildings land next to a bar, and then suddenly folks are complaining about the bar keeping them up at night, but the bar was there first. But this is zoned industrial land. This is an existing building, and I'm confident, based on the response that Mr. Greenberg provided, that this use, temporary as it may be, will not impact their operation of their business as they are currently zoned and allowed to do. And indeed, over the years, there's been an interesting mix of residents, small business, restaurants, cafes, and punk rock party houses alongside industrial use on this block. So I will support this, but I certainly take the concerns seriously from our industrial neighbors here.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I could say what Councillor Swanson said, so I'll say that, but I wanted to augment and add to that. I am really concerned about the fact that I don't think that we are encouraging or prodding or incentivizing the maximization of our industrial lands. And we do need economy supporting lands. Councillor Swanson's absolutely right that we have a housing crisis in support, but we also have a dire shortage of land overall, and we need these trade enabling lands or we won't have services and jobs in the city. I'm also cognizant that I think we're starting to learn that it's more and more difficult. Temporary is not really temporary in terms of the investment in these infrastructures, and it's becoming more and more difficult to relocate so-called TMH. It's not sort of the simply pick it up and move it at the end of the tenure that we had envisioned. And it creates a whole host of issues, I think, to providing stability of tenure and housing for people. Granted, recognizing that the idea is to move people along the housing continuum, but I think it's fraught, and I am fairly concerned about that. I'm always concerned when people say, well, it's only opening the way or paving the way for a future decision with respect to utilizing the land to do this. And from my perspective, that's always put another way, letting the horse out of the barn, because that's on a path or a trajectory where that is opening up that opportunity and kind of nudging something in that direction, if you will. And I think we have to be really honest about that. So I never buy that. That doesn't make sense to me in terms of, well, we're just opening up for a possible decision, but it gathers momentum and it sort of picks up steam there. So I don't think that we're maximizing the use of our industrial lands and our employment lands at all. And I think we're going to see significant issues there that actually play into things like income and housing stability and poverty if we don't have the economy supporting jobs. So it's not my favorite thing to see this year. I recognize that there's a distinction between the private lands and the public lands, but I have to say I have concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Yung. Councillor Hardwick, you are next.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? I am concerned about the precedent-setting nature of this once it's gone. That one thing I've noticed is there is a significant loss of institutional memory, shall we say. So as Councillor Kirby-Yung said, temporary is not temporary, and the house is the horse is out of the barn. I like those. We just have to know that once it's gone, and we can say it's going to be for 10 years, but don't be holding your breath for when we get to that 10-year mark. So it's sure there's always crisis, but once it's gone, it's gone. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Dominato, you are next.
Thanks, Chair. At risk of being a bit repetitive, I recognize the needs to have necessary housing in the city, particularly for individuals who are at risk, and this is unique in that we're dealing with private lands, but you know, I know the area as well, and as I was asking the caller and the owner of Cool Air about the existing property as it stands now, it is to Councillor Fry's point, largely underutilized, and isn't really being used for industrial use. I do share the concerns, though, of my colleagues who've noted this before around the loss of industrial land in Vancouver and the pressure that puts on not just the city to be able to have light industrial in the city and support jobs in the economy, but also the pressure it puts on Metro Vancouver. And we've had these conversations regionally. This being said, staff have noted that very clearly that this is not changing the zoning. The I-2 remains in place, and that this is for 10 years, and they're potentially relocation after that time. But we do recognize, and I recognize, the need to have a range of housing options, and that this is a partnership as well. And it's great to see those partnerships. But I think it's just that acknowledging that, there's trade-offs. And so, but I do appreciate that we'll be preserving the I-2 zoning, and that in the future, if there is a need for it or interest, that it could be used for industrial and employment lands. But I will support the application before us and support the LUMA housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. Seeing no other councillors on the speaking list, I will ask the clerk to move us to a voting queue.
And Chair, I'll take a vote assist in favor, please. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Dominato. That passes with Councillor Hardwick in opposition.
Councillor Boyle, can I get a vote assist, please?
Oh, yes.
I'm not able to.
Yes, sorry about that.
Panel.
A vote assist in which way?
In opposition.
In opposition. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes with Councillor Hardwick and Councillor Kirby-Yung in opposition. Council, we are about to move on to item 4 of this evening's public hearing agenda. I will again just ask us to pause so staff can get ready for the last item, and ask the clerk to let me know when staff are ready.
Staff are ready, Deputy Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much, Clerk. Um, Item 4 is a CD1 rezoning for 2406 to 2484 Renfrew Street. Before we begin, does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item 4? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will now read the application and summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by Studio One Architectures, Inc. to rezone 2406 to 2484 Renfrew Street from C-1 Commercial District and RS-1 Residential District to CD-1 Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of a 14-story mixed-use building and a 6-story residential building containing a total of 180 secured rental housing units, of which 20% of the residential floor area will be secured as moderate income units. A building height of 48.6 meters with additional height for a rooftop amenity and a floor space ratio of 4.10 are proposed. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design and Sustainability recommends approval subject to the conditions set out in the summary and recommendation of the public hearing agenda. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing. 14 pieces of correspondence in support and 2 pieces of correspondence in opposition. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you very much. If there are speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. We have Chi Chan, rezoning planner with the Rezoning Center, here to present the application, and council again, as we have speakers already signed up. I suggest that we see the presentation. So I will pass it over to Chi Chan from the Rezoning Center.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. My name is Chi Chan. I am the rezoning planner for this application, which is being considered under the Moderate Income Rental Housing Pilot Program. The site, shown in red, is comprised of 9 lots. It is located on the northeast corner of Renfrew Street and Broadway, and it's zoned both C1 and RS1. It's surrounded by RS1 residential properties to the east, north, and west, and CD1 zones to the south. The lots are currently developed with 6 houses and 1 one-story commercial building. 4 of the houses are occupied by previous owners, and 2 houses are vacant. One of the vacant houses was tenanted, but the tenant has since vacated and would be compensated under the provisions of the Tenant Relocation and Protection Policy. To the southeast of the site is the Broadway Tech Center. There are 2 recent 7-story MERP applications nearby, which were approved by Council in 2019, as shown in the yellow outline. The site is well served by transit, located directly on the 99B line, the number 9 Broadway, and the number 16 Renfrew Street bus route. It's also 400 meters north of the Renfrew SkyTrain station. There are several bike routes within a few blocks of the site, as well as 6 childcare facilities and several parks. This application is located within the Rupert and Renfrew Station Area Plan. The planning process for the station area has just started. While this application is within the study area, the recently approved interim rezoning policy permits active and in-stream applications such as this one to proceed. In 2017, Council approved the Vancouver Housing Strategy as well as the MERP program, which enables consideration of this rezoning application. The intent of the MERP program is to encourage new rental units that are permanently secured for moderate income households or those earning between $30,000 to $80,000 per year. Under this policy, applications must secure a minimum of 20% of the proposed floor area for moderate income units. The program establishes incentives, including additional height and density, to make securing those moderate income units a viable option in comparison to home ownership developments. Under the MERP program for this site, higher building forms at RS and C zone sites at an arterial intersection may be considered for rezoning. This application was submitted on March 8th, 2021 and resubmitted on October 7th, 2021. The resubmitted application proposes a 14-story mixed-use building with a partial 15-floor rooftop amenity area at the corner of Renfrew and Broadway and a separate 6-story residential building along Renfrew. A building height of 159 feet and up to 171 feet to accommodate the partial 15-floor rooftop amenity area and an FSR of 4.10 are proposed. It includes 180 secured rental units, 35% of which will be family units, and 20% of the residential floor area, which will be secured for moderate income households, approximately 36 MER units, in compliance with the MERP program. This project will create approximately 294 direct jobs. The original rezoning application was for a 12-story building with a 6-story podium, which you can see here on the left. Following comments received from the Urban Design Panel and further staff review, a revised application was received in October, separating the building into two. The resubmission dealt with comments about the original application's long building frontage, which was approximately 280 feet. It also improves the openness and access to the sky for pedestrians and creates the opportunity for a new courtyard and pedestrian mews between the two buildings, connecting Renfrew Street and the lane. The revised proposal also simplified the architectural expression, sculpted the tower to improve shadowing to the northeast, and reduced the tower floor plate to 6,500 square feet, which is more in line with residential towers seen across the city. The floor area that was removed between the two buildings was essentially transferred to the top of the residential tower. This slide compares the cost of renting and ownership. The application proposes that the moderate income units starting rents will be between $950 to $2,000 per month. The middle green columns indicate that the average starting rents for new rental units on the east side of Vancouver and the incomes that they could serve. In 2016, the average household income in the Hastings Sunrise neighborhood, where this application is located, was approximately $85,000. Based on CMHC data, the ownership of a median price unit on the east side of Vancouver ranges from $2,100 a month for a studio up to $5,400 for a 3-bedroom unit. Therefore, both moderate income and market rental rates will be well below the monthly cost of home ownership. With respect to the proposed rental units, these would be secured through a housing agreement, both prohibiting the stratification of units while also limiting the rates at which rents for the moderate income units may be increased even on a change in tenant. A virtual open house was held between May 10th and 31st of 2021 on the original 12-story application. A total of 66 submissions were received during the application period, and support was expressed for the location, provision of housing, and building height, density, and massing. Concerns were also expressed related to the location, building height, density, and massing, and traffic impacts. Staff reviewed the original rezoning application and concluded that the proposed height and density are appropriate at an arterial intersection in close proximity to transit, schools, shops, and services along Renfrew Street and Grandview Highway. The application conforms with the MERP location criteria to consider a rezoning proposal at this arterial intersection. In response to the feedback received from the public and UDP on the original application, it was revised. In the redesign, the residential tower, as I had mentioned, was sculpted to minimize shadowing impacts to the northeast. The form was revised to 2 separate buildings to allow more light penetration throughout the site. On traffic, the project will comply with the parking bylaw. It's also well served by transit, being within 400 meters of a SkyTrain station. Staff assessment is that the revised proposal, as presented here tonight and in the council report, represents a balanced approach to delivery of much-needed rental units in a transit-supported location and meets the intent of the MERP program. The applicant has declared not taking the DCL waiver. The public benefits from this project are approximately $4 million in DCLs and $286,000 towards public art and the securing of rental units, of which 20% of the residential floor area will be for moderate income units. In conclusion, this proposal is consistent with the intent of the Moderate Income Housing Pilot Program, and staff support this application subject to the conditions contained in Appendix B. Staff and the applicant team are available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Is the applicant team here to speak to the application?
Yes, Councillor. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Shorik Tutunjian. I'm Principal of Studio One Architecture. I would like to present the applicant team present here today with me is Angelo Tsakoumis, Principal of EPTA Development Corporation, the developer, Daryl Chiaki, Landscape Architect, Principal of ETA Landscape Architecture, and Jim Wong, Principal of Studio One Architecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from Council to staff or the applicant team? Again, a reminder that this is the only opportunity for Council to ask questions of the applicant. And Councillor Swanson, go ahead.
Yeah, to staff. When you look at the pro formas from these developers to try and figure out, you know, the amount of CACs and DCLs and public art and stuff, what actual period of time do you look at? Do you look at like the first year, or till the end of till the mortgage is paid off, or till the end of the building, the life of the building, or some other period?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I'm going to direct that question to our real estate specialist, Mario.
Hi there, this is Mario with Real Estate Services. Just can you clarify that question? Are we looking at the valuation, how we value it?
Well, how you figure out how much the developer should contribute to public benefits? I guess you do that by looking at a pro forma, right?
Yes, that is correct. The pro forma will incorporate the valuation of the project over the life of the project. So it is a long-term view when we're looking at assessing the value of the project.
Okay. So over the life of the project. So after the mortgage is paid off and the money that's coming in is basically just for operating and maintenance, there'll be quite a bit more profit than at the beginning, right?
I guess that would be more of a cash flow question. Yeah, I would assume that once mortgages are paid off, a cash flow would be higher.
Okay, so I'm looking at this proposal that the BC Government Employees Union did in Burnaby, where they're, I forget how many units, I think it's a couple hundred. They paid about 20 million for the land, and they're going to do 50% affordable and put in a childcare. Now, they're not taking a profit, which the developer will take. But why is it, how is it that they can get 50% affordable and a childcare? And their definition of affordable is actually a little bit cheaper than ours. How can they get 50% affordable and a childcare while we can only get 20% affordable? Couldn't we at least boost it up to 30 or 40, even with the profit for the developer?
Councillor Swanson, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, we don't know about the others, a process happening in an adjacent municipality with respect to land values and the processes. Also, the land values could be different, but we don't have a full answer as to what they could do versus this is something
that about 20 million.
This is what the developer has proposed to be feasible for them to secure the below market rental units.
So we don't know what the difference is. Why one developer can make 50% affordable and the other one can only make 20%.
Hi, this is Mario with Real Estate Services again. Yeah, it would be very difficult to know the unique situations in those two projects. There are a lot of factors that would have to be considered, such as the type of tenancy involved, the cost required to develop those properties. So, they're two different markets, they're two different projects, and they are pretty unique, I would assume. So it's really difficult for me to compare and comment on that without knowing what the other project is about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Seeing no more councillors on the queue for questions to staff or the applicant team, we'll now move to hearing from the public. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream as well. And I see we have a number of speakers signed up already. Is speaker number 1, Laura Burke, on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You have 5 minutes. Go right ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. I understand the logistics of why you would need the public to have speakers and advocates for moderate income housing, but I also think it's so glaringly obvious that it's needed to have to find people to speak up and get this pilot program off the ground is a step back in bringing Vancouver citizens a better option for housing. I lived in Calgary for most of my life. I'm an aspiring actor who hates the cold. I've lived in Vancouver for 12 years, most of the time in a bachelor apartment, usually me and my significant other, which can be a little tight because it's all I could afford while pursuing my dream and working as a waitress. I'm actually currently at my job right now. I've taken some time off to sit here in the office and my restaurant to make time to do this because it's so important. Also, I've wanted kids my whole life, but have recently made the hard decision with my spouse that we won't because we would like a better life for our kids, and I don't see that happening if I can't afford to get them their own room. I found out recently that it's actually against the law to keep your boy and girl child in the same room together after she starts menstruating, which I understand, but it can be hard to get a 3-bedroom place in the city for a decent price. I was listening in on the line and someone had quoted the prices, and it went up to like $4,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment. If I'd had children, I'd like to give them their own room and occasionally take them on holiday, all the while saving for my own retirement and paying my bills, which seems to me increasingly implausible to do so financially. In order for us to prop up the next generation, we need to take active steps to make life easier for them financially. There are things that are in our control and things that are not. Food costs are rising, gas is rising, but we have an opportunity here to create a space for families to thrive. So many people would benefit from this. There are many ways living in a stable, affordable housing helps improve an individual's mental health. I got all of the following statistics from Habitat for Humanity. Proper housing can include reduced financial stress, improved family dynamics, and better physical health. 86% of people who have benefited from improved living situations said that they're happier now than they were before moving into their new home. Happier people are better contributing people to the whole of society. Do we want to like keep people in poverty and on EI? No, we want to create programs and systems that help people escape generational poverty. Many families have lived in housing conditions that posed a risk to their health. Since moving into their new homes, 78% of families reported that their health is better now than it was in their previous housing. Over 70% said they've experienced fewer colds, flus, allergies, and asthma symptoms. As I was preparing to speak today and I saw this, I was actually pretty blown away that over 70% of people said that they've experienced fewer colds because of where they live. But then I get it because I live in a ratchet building that's over 50 years old with mold on the tub and at least 3 smokers in the building who refuse to quit smoking in their unit. With better housing, families will have more money left over for other expenses like food. Eating a balanced diet is greatly beneficial to an individual's health, and they'll now have more money to be able to purchase fresh produce. With more affordable housing, 58% of homeowners say that they're better off financially than they were before, and this provides families with a sense of stability, knowing that they'll be able to afford to keep their house. I mean, I could keep going, but I only have 5 minutes, and we're all here for one reason, and I truly see no downside to this project. It would benefit me and others like me greatly, because what's the alternative? Move out of Vancouver? That costs a lot of money itself. I'm an actor. I want to live in Vancouver. I need to stay close. It's our Hollywood North, and that just means that I would have to move to greater Vancouver area and travel into the city to go to my auditions and my jobs that are mostly downtown. And, you know, I already work at restaurants. Should I just give up on my dream and move to a smaller town? Is that the world that we want to live in? Is that the world that we want to tell our kids, like, don't chase your dreams because you can't afford to live in a big city? Not me. I already work at three different restaurants to be able to afford my rent, my car, my phone, an occasional lip gloss. You know, keep in mind, I'm 9 years sober. I don't smoke. I have no expensive habits, and I still struggle financially to save for my retirement. I'm very good with my money, and I would love to be able to dabble in stocks and investments, but rent in Vancouver for a 2-bedroom apartment is around $2,400. Making minimum wage, that's literally your entire check, pre-tax. No money for food, clothes, phone, anything. My assumption for the mayor and council is that you live in pretty comfortable housing, you know, but if I don't want to be in politics or in finance, then what? I just am screwed. We need people to be cashiers and garbage men and social workers and teachers, and that's most of us, which is why affordable housing
Thank
is
you,
so
Speaker.
important.
Thank you so much. Your 5 minutes is up, but Councillor Swanson has questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Swanson, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find what the rents would be on the market units here. I haven't quite found them, but I'm sure that there'll be at least the 2,400 that you talked about for a 2-bedroom. Are you, when you're speaking in favor of this project, are you thinking that you could get into one of the moderate income rental units, one of the 20%, but not the 80%?
I'm hoping so, and I was listening to you earlier, and I actually really appreciate that you mentioned boosting it up to a 30% affordable housing. That's great, and I was hoping so. You know, I've been following this project on the way because I think there needs to be more things like it, and I would love to be able to be a part of that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I hope you can get on the list quick. As soon as they open it up, you better get on it.
Thank you. I actually already put in my application. I was one of the 66 people to put in my application, so I really appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming in to speak.
Thanks, Councillor Swanson.
Thanks, Councillor Swanson, and thank you, Speaker. Those are all the questions you have from Council. You spoke very clearly, so thanks for making the time.
You're very
Speaker
welcome.
Thank you. Speaker number 2 is Fraser Blanchflower. Is Fraser Blanchflower on the line?
Yes, speaking.
Great, we can hear you. You have 5 minutes. Go right ahead.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've called into tonight's public hearing to share my support for this proposed housing development. I know that more often than not, you hear from people with concerns at public hearings, so I'd like to offer a different perspective and keep this as short as possible for us all. As a young person looking to establish myself in Vancouver, I have concerns about the housing outlook in the city. Currently, we lack housing choices to serve young adults and moderate income earners. Most often, professionals cannot afford a single family home or even a down payment on a condo unless they get help from a parent. So I think that I like the project as it proposes to deliver affordable housing options that will be secured at market and below market rates in perpetuity, which will be affordable to people with a wide range of incomes. With 180 homes proposed in a great location, I think this project will help stop some of the outward migration of young adults from Vancouver. Not only does high cost of housing in Vancouver push people out of our community, but it also contributes to traffic congestion, which, as we know, is a major source of frustration for Vancouver residents. So this project is located within walking distance to Renfrew Station, and I expect that many residents will choose to transit as opposed to vehicle ownership. So to close, I think this is a great project, and I hope that Council will support this application, which offers better housing options to serve the needs for our community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for making the time to call in. You have no questions, but really appreciate your time. Speaker number 3 is Mark Robillard.
Yes. Hello. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, and you have up to 5 minutes. Go right ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. I'd like to express my support for this development. In my opinion, we need extra density, and if there's a good place to increase density, that would be that area. There's already the existing infrastructure of the SkyTrain, and it is also close to the highway, so I think that's a very good site for it. And the area has been rejuvenated with a tech center on the other side of the street, and I think this area would benefit from a little bit of uplift. And that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you so much. You don't have questions from Council, but again, really appreciate you making the time to phone in.
Thanks for listening.
Anytime. Speaker number 4 is Maximilian Lepore.
Hi, Council. My name is Maximilian. I'm a young adult living in Vancouver, BC. I'm actually going to have to keep this speech brief as I have a final research paper due tomorrow, and it's worth 46% of my final mark. In spite of this academic deadline, I still felt it necessary to call in and voice my support today. I'm motivated to call in and show my support for this proposed rezoning under the moderate income rental housing pilot program for a few reasons. Firstly, I'm a keen supporter of this rezoning program because it helps renters and tenants like me. As a young adult and full-time student at UBC, one of the biggest challenges I and friends in my circle face is finding secured rental housing. The MIRHPP helps address these challenges. Preventing rezoning proposals that satisfy this rezoning program works against renters like me. I urge you to vote in support. I would echo the comments caller number 2 made earlier, especially how a lack of rezoning approvals under this program can contribute to an outward migration of youth from our city. I'm seeing it, my friends are leaving, and I don't want that to happen. I really appreciate how the developer has included 180 rental homes in this particular development, especially because of how close these rental homes are to rapid transit, such as the Renfrew Station and Broadway, a major arterial street in which major bus routes operate, even those going towards UBC. I've actually spoken about this development with my uncle, who lives a few blocks away just on Slocan Street. He's also expressed support of this development, emphasizing how this development will modernize the neighborhood, providing a public realm benefit. As we heard tonight from rezoning planner Chi Chen, the public has been heard, and as the developer has ameliorated the design in response to public feedback. It's great to see that the immediate neighborhood has been heard. Speaking of public realm benefits, I also appreciate how the developer has opted not to obtain a DCL waiver and is also contributing a public art benefit. I urge you to support this rezoning and ensure that we have more rental housing built in our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, you have no speaker questions from Council, but really appreciate you phoning in this evening. Speaker number 5 is Kevin Waterhouse.
Hi there.
Hello, we
Hello,
can hear
can
you.
you hear
You
me?
have up to 5 minutes. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thanks so much. Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Kevin Waterhouse, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of the proposed development at Renfrew and 8th Ave. I think it's great the city has created policies like the Moderate Income Rental Housing Pilot Program that are designated to make housing secure for renters and more affordable. This project proposed to add 180 new secured rental homes, including 36 at a fixed rate affordable for those earning a wide range of annual incomes. This type of housing is badly needed. I'm a school teacher, and I've lost lots of friends and colleagues that have not been able to maintain rental prices in the city, and they have long those that don't maybe have long commutes. They find it unsuitable, attainable housing close to work. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for teachers in Vancouver to be occasionally late to class because they are stuck in traffic somewhere. Creating better housing options closer to schools and transit will help to alleviate some of these challenges. I also want to comment on the neighborhood. Hastings Sunrise is a great area with lots of cool new shops and restaurants popping up. No doubt there are lots of people who would love to rent a home in this area. Over the past several years, development in the area has contributed positively to the community. This particular site would benefit from renewal, which is what this new building will help to do. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope you will vote in favor of this great project. Thank you.
Thank you. You don't have any questions from council, but again, really appreciate you making the time this evening. Speaker number 6 is Arsalan Shaigan.
Speaking. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. You have up to 5 minutes. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Hello, council. I hope everyone is doing well today. So I'm currently attending university, and I live in Kitsilano with 3 other roommates. I decided to call in today because of the rental housing crisis we endure as youth in Vancouver. It's so important to humanize and show the real personal impact that your decisions have when supporting rental housing developments. As I am a renter, I've recently been reminded about how precarious my situation is when not renting from a secured rental operator. My close friend has recently had their rent increased by 10%, which obviously exceeds the BC maximum allowable of 1.5% per annum. She's currently dealing with the RTB and is dealing with a whole lot of stress, hence the exam season for us. As this development is secured rental housing, lifelong renters like myself can rest assured knowing that arbitrary decisions by private landlords won't cause undue stress and our rights will be better protected. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and I hope this development gets passed.
Thank you so much. You don't have questions from council, but appreciate you taking the time this evening to phone in and speak on this item. Speaker number 7 is Yash Chawla.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Honorable Councillor, to take my call. My name is Yash Chawla. I fully support this project, and some more things I wanted to add. We should also think about out-of-the-box kind of situation here. If somebody is willing to develop the properties, smaller ones, with 100% affordable housing support, we should also think about doing the smaller lots for 4 to 6 story building closer to SkyTrain. So this is what I wanted to add, but I fully support this one as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. Again, no questions from council, but appreciate you making the time. Clerk, do we have other speakers on the line?
No additional speakers, Chair.
Okay, I will make a second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and is available on the live stream as well. And clerk, any more speakers on the line or in person?
No speakers, Chair.
Okay, this is my third call for speakers, and we will take a 5-minute break to give time for any speakers who may wish to phone in to do so. It's 8:01, so council, we will return at 8:06. Thank you very much. to your desk. Clerk, do we have any other speakers on the line?
There is one speaker. We're just identifying that they're speaking to this item.
Okay, great.
Just one moment.
Hi, Julie Chow.
Yep.
You're still on the line. You may proceed. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Do we have any other speakers on the line? Good evening. We can hear you. You have up to 5 minutes, and go ahead when you're ready.
Oh, hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Julie Chow, and I'm calling. I've been listening to this public hearing, and I heard a lot of people fully support this project, and I'm one of them too. Since the day one. Yes?
Yep. You're still on the line. You may proceed. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Go ahead, speaker.
Speakers on the
Good evening. We can hear you. You have up to 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Oh, hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Speaker, you may need to turn off the recording of the meeting that you're listening to so that there's not an echo of what you're hearing. But we were hearing you just fine, so please continue.
And I heard a lot of people fully support this project, and I'm one of them too. Since the day one. Yes?
You're still on the line. You may proceed. Thank you very much.
Okay. 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 Since day one, I
Hear you. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, Julie. It's the city moderator here. I believe you do have your computer or you're watching it live. Could you maybe turn off your computer? Julie?
can I continue now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling you to fully support this project because since day one I've been watching this project because this is the only one in Renfrew area which allowed the taller building, and that's what the city really needs. Because actually I'm calling in because I think since everybody like the project so much, why not increase the height? Encourage the developer to build higher, just like our neighbor city, like at Brentwood Mall, Gilmore Station, Lohi Mall Station, even the Metrotown and the Southgate, even the Surrey and the Cochrane, they all build much higher, so you can have more affordable housing. If you allow the developer to build higher, they make more money, so they can afford to build more affordable housing. If you have 100 units, then you said 20%, but 20% is 20 units. If you allow them only 16-story, 20%, how many units? You won't have that much. So please upzone it more, build more, and build it fast, because so many young people, they are suffering. They are our future generation. They are the ones who support the society. They are the ones who pay the tax, who are the ones who give the city the revenue. And if the city have more revenue, then they can help the homeless people. They can build more affordable housing. So that's it. Thank you very much. Hope they can upzone it and build higher. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You don't have any questions from council, but really appreciate you making the time to phone in this evening. Clerk, do we have any more speakers in person or on the line?
No additional speakers, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Seeing as there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. As few public comments were received on this item after 5 p.m. today. I suggest we now close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments, asking further questions of staff, and making a decision. Does the applicant have any closing comments?
And no, Deputy Mayor, thank you. We have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do staff have any closing comments?
No further comments, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff at this time? Councillor DiGenova, you are up first.
I don't see anyone else on the queue, so I'm prepared to move the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Donato.
Okay, I think I heard Councillor Carr's voice there, moved by Councillor DiGenova and seconded by Councillor Carr. Councillor DiGenova, are you on the list for debate?
I'll take myself off for now. I might come back on in a moment.
Okay, Councillor Swanson for debate.
Yeah, I'm going to go for this because I don't think it's going to gentrify the area. It's in a good spot, close to jobs, close to transit. At least we're getting some affordability, even though it's only 20%. I'm going to ask staff, formally email staff a question to see if we can get a comparison with the BCGEU development in Burnaby and see if there's some way we can boost the affordability like they have. But I'll vote for this in the meantime.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Councillor Carr, you are up next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and I do intend to support this. I seconded it. You know, this is the only program, the MRP, the Moderate Income Rental Housing Program, pilot program, is the only program that the city has that actually deals with vacancy control and true affordability, which is units that are at 30% of a household income, which is why you're getting studio units at $950 a month, one bedrooms at $1,200, two bedrooms at $1,600, three bedrooms at $2,000, which is far, far lower than the market rents. It was my amendment in the end of last term that actually got this program, and I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Staff thought, oh my goodness, there's nobody going to apply for this, and we have had, and they were surprised by and delighted by the fact that there were applicants wanting to participate in the MRP program, and I'm pleased by those applicants wanting to participate as well. Vacancy control is something that we've all, I think, talked about wanting at council, so this program does allow that. So on turnover of the apartments, the rents stay the same; they are not increased, and that also is something I believe will lead to more long-term affordability within the rental markets of the city. So thanks to all the callers who called in and to the applicant for bringing this forward. It is at a station site, as some of you have already mentioned, or close to a SkyTrain station and in a station area that makes sense in terms of coupling affordable housing with affordable transportation, public transportation. So as I say, pleased to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor DiGenova.
Thanks so much. Just briefly wanted to mention that aside from moving the motion, I will be supporting it. I think that it's important to look at this in the context of how these MRP projects actually help our entire housing continuum. And I have to say, realizing that from even before this term, last term when staff did some of the work on affordable home ownership and realized that in moving that forward, even that there were renters that were overhoused but couldn't quite make it to that down payment. So I'm also hoping that we'll see more affordable rental, to some of the speakers' points, open up as we continue to be able to, you know, only so many units at a time help to deliver on, you know, housing that comes in at 30% of income. I think that this is in line with BC Housing's housing income limits as well, but also knowing that the city of Vancouver is taking a leadership role in this is something that I really want to thank our staff for the thoughtful time and consideration you put into not only the program and the policy, but also want to thank the applicant for taking a chance. MERP is fairly new, and realizing that not only will we see families living in units where it's at lower rates so that they can, as some of the speakers have noted, afford nutritious food, be able to, spend some of their income on other things that are much needed, but also noting that this is near parks. It is near, as is noted in the report, childcare facilities, as well as transit. So for those reasons and others, I wholeheartedly and enthusiastically support this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor DiGenova. Seeing no other councillors on the speakers queue, I'll ask the clerk to move us to a vote. And that passes with no councillors in opposition. That concludes the 4 items on our public hearing agenda for this evening. We need a motion
to adjourn.
Second.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. I heard Councillor Hardwick and seconded by Councillor Wiebe. All in favor of adjourning?
Yay.
Aye.
Yay.
Any opposed?
None.
Carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, staff and speakers and council.
Thanks, Chair. Good work.
Good job,
See you
Chair.
tomorrow.
And
Thanks, Chair.
thanks, staff. Thanks,
everyone.
council.
Have a good
Yeah,
night.
nice job, Chair. Nice chairing there.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks.